Hi guys. I figured I could multitask this evening and we could discuss, a topic, why I do all of my nightly skin stuff. So let's talk about vulnerability. I think that's a good one to do, especially when I'm doing this. So, in relationships and in life, we have to learn to be vulnerable. And that can be something that is very hard to do. And not only in love relationships, but with ourselves and with our friendships. And because that's us having to show who we are and, what we want and everything in life. Because that's admitting, that we have feelings. And that's something hard to do. And vulnerability is, difficult at times, because then that's letting somebody see you raw and uncut. And we all are vulnerable. And for me, being a single mom, I never, ever, ever, wanted to let my children see, the sad side or crying or anything like that. I would wait and, go and hide and cry when, they were asleep or whatever, because mom is superwoman. She's going to figure everything out. Everything's going to be fine. And in this last couple of years when I happened to get sick, and I started to cry all of a sudden for no reason and couldn't control it, because autoimmune disease will fuck a person up. It all started to come out, and they would crack jokes because my boys are, they are hilarious. They would be like, "Mom's crying. It's okay, Mom, you can cry. It's all right." And they always knew growing up that, you don't cry. There's a time to cry, but you just don't cry to cry. And going through all this, I had this discussion with them, and they're like, "No, Mom, we know we can cry. We just know you don't cry to get out of stuff. We know that you don't cry just to, think that that's going to help situations and get you out of things. We knew that if we cried when we were kids, that just pissed you off. That, we were going to get twice as much trouble because that was, not going to make it any better." And they're like, "We know you cry. We know you just don't cry around us." And now it's better. I don't cry like I used to. I would cry at a drop of a hat, but since autoimmune disease is getting better, it's okay. But it even took me a moment at that time to be like, I don't even cry in front of my children because I don't want anybody to see that. And they're my children, But you have to learn that, you can be vulnerable in front of anybody. And otherwise, we're the most loving family in the world. I've never had to worry about being that mom that my kids never, hugged and kissed me in front of their friends, because they still do. They even hug each other because, you never know when you might not see each other again. And I'm glad I've instilled that in my children. But I've struggled throughout relationships to be vulnerable, even with friends, because it's hard. So we've got to think about that. If we want vulnerability, we have to be vulnerable. But it starts with ourselves, and being vulnerable with ourselves, and being honest with ourselves about how we feel about things. And why do we feel like we can't be vulnerable? What started that? What caused that? Why do we feel like we can't? And that's what causes a lot of miscommunications in relationships, because people don't feel like, they can be honest about things. And you feel like you're protecting your partner, when really you're not protecting your partner. You're harming your partner because you're harming yourself, because you're not being honest about your own feelings. So how is that saving anything or protecting anybody? Because in the end, it's just causing more strife. So got to learn how to be more vulnerable and be more honest about our feelings. These are all things that you think about and come about. So, when one's working on self and you go through all these are things you need to ponder. So, are you actually honest with yourself in all your relationships? Are you vulnerable with yourself? Something to think about. We'll talk more about vulnerability. Have a good night.